Well, good evening and welcome to France 24's daily African Cup of Nations roundup show. My name is Emily Boyle and joining me tonight in the studio are football experts Tando Sibia and Andreas Evagre. Welcome to you both. Well, today was day 2 of AFCON and it was packed with action, starting with a dramatic last-minute equaliser for Zambia in their game against Mali. Mali fans were left disappointed, whilst Zambian fans were quite happy to get their hands on their first point of the tournament. Let's have a listen to what they had to say.
Honestly, I'm really disappointed. I'm not going to lie, we were expecting a win against Zambia, with all the respect I have for this country. We thought Morocco was going to be the tough match. We need to make up for it against Morocco, but it's going to be very tricky.
It's given us motivation, and I think we should be able to show other countries that we were here to perform as well. We're here to test our chances at winning the score. So yeah, it was a good match. It was a good match, and I hopefully will continue advancing that way.
Well, let's head to Morocco now to speak to our reporter Selina Sykes, who was in the Mohammed V Stadium. Selina, what a dramatic end to that game. Were Mali robbed of their first 3 points there?
Well, Emily, I think there will have been a few regrets in the Eagles' dressing room on that after that final whistle. Zambia wearing the bright orange kit in Casablanca, though it was Mali in white who made a much more colourful start to that game. They could have gone one up quite early on when they were awarded a penalty in the 38th minute, but El Bilal Toure saw his effort saved by the Zambian goalkeeper. Good save from him. Mali then did open the scoring in the 62nd minute thanks to Lassine Sinayoku, a Ligue 1 player, getting his goal there, putting the Malians ahead after they took a quick corner that caught Zambia off guard. The first shot by Mali was blocked, but then he was there to finish that one and get them 1-0 up. Mali had a few more chances and probably should have put the game to bed. Zambia had fewer chances, though they were on target when it mattered most in the 92nd minute in stoppage time, stealing a point even from Mali for that one. It was an excellent header by Paston Daka, the Leicester City striker, the hero of the hour there, though he didn't sound too enthused actually with the result when we managed to speak to him after the match. Let's take a listen.
Well, the feeling is not really the best because we know that 3 points would have been the best feeling, but at least we have got something positive to look forward to and something that we can build from.
Well, let's talk about that again in the studio here, as in Patson Daka, who we just heard there. Obviously, the hero of the match with that last-minute goal. Was that the result you were expecting, Tando?
Not a 1-1 draw, especially against the Mali side that got knocked out in quarterfinals in the last edition of the African Cup of Nations. Zambia, I think I'm quite impressed, especially considering their form coming into this African Cup of Nations. They had 4 losses in the World Cup qualifiers, a 1-0 defeat against Niger. Didn't do so well as well in the qualifiers for the African Cup of Nations. Failed to qualify for the World Cup. And so looking at them on paper, we didn't expect this. Yesterday when we were speaking about the teams coming in today, I don't know how, but we completely overlooked Patson Daka. And he did his job. He's a striker, he's the number 9, and he did exactly what he was called to do, especially in pressure conditions, being an experienced player at Leicester City. And I think that's exactly why he was called up and he's performing. And so I think that's a player to definitely look out for, but I do think that the rest of the team did hold their bandwidth. I think at 71 minutes, the possession was at 58 for Mali and 42 for Zambia. So it just shows you that in terms of possession, they are pulling their weight. And so I think in the games to come, like the supporter did mention from the Malian supporter, did say that it's going to be a little bit difficult for them because I think they were hoping for an outright win to get the 3 points over here so that in case they don't make it against Morocco, then they do have a little bit of something that's carrying them in the tournament.
Well, of course, Mali's next game is against Morocco. How do you think that their performance today will hold them in good stead for that game?
Well, it puts them under a bit of pressure, doesn't it? I mean, first word about Willard Mwanza, the goalkeeper for Zambia. It was a really good penalty save. And, since Zambia won the Africa Cup of Nations, they've given away 5 penalties. Not one has been scored. So something's going on there. It was a really poor equaliser from Sinioka. They shouldn't have given that goal away. But right at the end, getting that equaliser. And to answer your question, that's putting pressure on Mali. They should have won today. They had a lot of chances. They had better players, better technical players. They were dominant. And I was very surprised. I think we all were when that goal went in. But it was a brilliant header. And now Mali, look, it's not the end of the world. It's a draw, but it means they probably all need 3 points to go through from now on. It does put a bit of pressure on them. And they should have won today. So they'll be disappointed with that.
And what do you think was lacking, or what happened towards the end of the game? We saw them kind of fall out of that game, maybe, which gave Zambia that occasion on goal, that goal actually. What do you think are some of the weaknesses that we saw in Mali's team today?
I think the mind. You need to have that mental strength to carry you throughout the end of the game. We saw even in the game with South Africa and Angola, both of them carried it towards the end, but those final 5 minutes, the additional time, you really have to carry yourself through to the end, not get comfortable when you are in the lead, not get too comfortable in defense either. And I think that's where they were found wanting. So going against Morocco, you cannot even be playing those kinds of games. We saw the game yesterday. Moroccans are going throughout the game mentally, physically. They will tire you out. I saw some highlights actually after the game just to see what points I might have missed. And I think that's also how the Moroccans won against Comoros yesterday, is that they tired them out, like physically and mentally. And so if you're going to be a Malian side that gets tired, a little bit fatigued towards the end of the game like they did in this one, especially against an opponent like Zambia, when you're facing the big dogs like Morocco, you're going to be found wanting.
Well, let's move now to our second game of the day. Obviously, there were 3 games today. Bafana and Angola got the party started for Group B. It started off well for the South Africans with a goal in the 21st minute by Oswin Apollis. Angola, though, were hot on their heels and managed to equalise before half-time. After one disallowed goal, South Africa were back for more, and Foster finally got his team a superb second goal. What did you think of that finish?
Oh, it was a brilliant finish from Foster, and I think that was the best match so far because it was overall good quality, 3 really good goals, competitive game. It was quite physical out there. 2 teams who know each other pretty well. That's a huge boost for South Africa. It was a hard game, and as we've said before, 4 points should be enough to get you through. They have 3, and they've got through a really tough battle. Angola, I think they can take a lot out of it because they scored a good goal, and it was only 2 very good goals, beat them to be fair. But now the pressure is on Angola. But a really good game. I think that was the highest quality in terms of, if you're looking at both teams' performances. So well done to both teams.
And South Africa almost doing an Aston Villa that we've seen so many shots taken from outside the box, a couple of them going in, one hitting the crossbar. Do you think this is an example of just how good they are offensively?
Yeah, I think it's also showing how diverse they are, and so they don't run out of options, or that they have a lot of options available, which can be very difficult if you're their opponents and you're just thinking that you've just figured them out. I think even in box, they were quite tight and doing the short passes. I just really liked the way that they played. I think Mbogazi really did a lot for South Africa's attack. It was his debut game today, and he's an Orlando Pirates player as well. And so I think just seeing how he carried and ushered the South African attack. Lyle Foster is, from the side of critics, not pulling his weight or performing as well as he possibly could. But him getting that equaliser was a good job. But people are saying that he can do a little bit better. And so I think that's definitely someone that we can be looking out for. Yesterday, when you did ask me who we could be looking out for, I failed to mention Oswin Apollis. Incredible player. He's got a lot of respect. And apparently it is by the help of Hugo Broos and the confidence that Hugo Broos has in this player, that he's performing so well, even in the domestic league, also at Orlando Pirates, doing very well. They just lifted a championship now with the Calling Black Label Championship, and that was after, well, that was the game that actually sent off Mbogazi to the United States in the MLS2. And so I think the attack in South Africa is definitely one to look out for, but I think also the movement of the ball and the freedom that they have to do that, and the confidence that they have to do so, because if you see how the first goal was created, the one that was scored by Oswin Apollis, it was actually across from Sipho Mbule from the left wing to the right to Mudau, who's the defender that I mentioned yesterday. And from Mudau, he crossed it into the ball in the box. There's a nice, cute little short pass going on because of a nice little back pass. I think it was from Bogazi that went past Foster intentionally and down to Oswanapolis's feet and then into the goal. So I think when you see just how creative they are in attack and in offense, I think that's what makes South African style of play a lot more exciting. I do think that they're capable of doing so much more, and there's so many more options on the bench as well. They also have Evidence Makgopa, who's a striker at Orlando Pirates as well, who's been doing really well. In South Africa, they call him Wanasesi. He's really appreciated by the South African supporters. So I do think that Hugo Bruce is not out of options, and so I think before people can get comfortable, and I'm speaking about the opposition, can get comfortable with the style of South African play, he's going to switch it up. Last time I mentioned that he's a tactician. He's also a strategist, and he's quite intelligent. In his press conferences, he plays down their performance. When we were speaking about the outfits yesterday, they showed up in black tracksuits. It's a very modest kind of performance that they're putting out, and I think that's also part of the reason why I think it makes them the black horses of the tournament.
And Andres, you were talking about Angola and how strong they are when they play at home. They also look pretty strong this evening. Would you agree?
I was impressed with them today, and they are a team who are mainly domestically based, which you talked about the problem of players coming to this AFCON quite late, only a week before. So I was thinking that might be less disadvantageous to teams like Angola, who basically know each other pretty well. So they were good today. I think they'll count themselves a little bit unlucky because they needed two very good finishes to beat them. So I can see Angola getting into the last 16 and causing a lot of problems for whoever they face, yeah.
Well, let's have a look now at that last game of the evening. Egypt against Zimbabwe, the Pharoes against the Warriors, and the Warriors put in quite a fierce battle until we were holding our breath right until the last minute there. First, Egypt scored a goal in the 20th minute. Zimbabwe opened the scoring at the 20th minute. And then after half-time, Egypt got their first goal and then followed at the 91st minute by a goal by Mo Salah. What did we make of that performance?
Egypt were not quite like themselves, or at least the Egypt that we had anticipated when we were speaking about them and how they could perform in the African Cup of Nations. But then Mo Salah coming in with the experience, the big match temperament, the control, the mental toughness, and just equalizing when it was needed. So we do see why they've called him up. And I think in the games to come, we can see a much better side in terms of the Pharoes. And so I do think that it does make them a little bit of a tough opponent. But I am quite impressed with the way Zimbabweans held up their form. Defensively, I think that's where they were really good. I mean, yes, in the equaliser, it did look like they were found wanting, but it wasn't necessarily that. It was really close, actually. With the 1v1, I think they performed quite well. That was one thing that I was observing, that when they were doing the zonal marking, they really held their width. And also in the 1v1 situations, that's where there would be a lot of interceptions, the marking, the tackles, clean tackles as well. So I do think that they're not a team to be overlooked. And I think also it's a nice mention or a nice opportunity to make mention of the COSAFA teams that are performing quite well. South Africa, Angola, Zimbabwe, not to be overlooked. You know, I do see that the style of play is improving a lot. It can be because of experience, players being based abroad, whatever it may be, but it's looking quite good.
And what did you make of Zimbabwe? Their opening goal in that 20th minute, and then they looked quite dangerous, especially on the counter. Were you impressed by that side? Yeah,
I think they played pretty well against us. Remember, they've played 4 times against Egypt. They've lost all 4, conceding 12 goals. They were the rank outsiders today. They were the Warriors. You know, they really fought very hard. They scored early. But I was actually disappointed in Egypt. I think if you separate the score from the performance, they were far too individualistic for me. Ironically, it was 2 brilliant bits of individual skill that won it. But if you can all go all the way in the tournament, you have to play as a team. Marmoush scored a brilliant equaliser, one has to say, even though the defence maybe did back off a little bit. And then it was a typical Salah goal near the end, just using his body strength and steering it into the goal. But Egypt, there was a point just after that goal when they were kind of shouting at each other, screaming at each other on the pitch. The coach was, judging by his body language, not happy at all. It was relief more than anything else. And that's a really important goal for them. Sometimes it's nice to start with that kind of game, though. I think it's quite good to start with a tough game. It shows that every game is going to be very difficult. But for me, that was not Egypt at their best, not by a long way, because they do have great individuals, but they have to work far better. Trezeguet was taking shots from distance. Salah was doing the same. They need to work much more as a team, but they've got time to do it. You know, this is a long tournament, and they've got a big game against South Africa to come. I mean, that's a real mouth-watering clash to come next up.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about body language. We even saw quite a few bad fumbles by the goalkeeper there on things that really shouldn't have been fumbled. What do you think it is about this Zimbabwe side that stresses people out so much?
Their unpredictability, I think. It's a team that can be easily overlooked. And because of that unpredictability, you have the chance to then showcase yourself in a way that nobody really expects.
Yeah, and were there any star players or players that stood out in this game for you, Andreas?
Well, Dube was a good goal for him, you know, and that's a big moment for him, and he has scored goals for Zimbabwe before, and, you know, his stock is rising there. But for the Egyptians, we saw they do have brilliant individuals, but they have to work much better as a team. They've got time to do it, but, you know, the normal suspects. Salah did play well. There were some brilliant touches from Salah, and we know he's capable of winning any match on his own. Trezeguet was good once he got down the wing, really dangerous. And through the middle, Mohamed came on and was pretty useful as well. So they have the players, but they do have to work much better from now on.
And I guess all eyes were also on Salah, first game back, first game for Egypt after all of the Salah drama. Do you think it was redemption for him this evening, or do you think he still has time to shine?
Not quite yet. Redemption a little bit too soon. It's a nice entry, I'd say. He's looking happy. I saw in the visuals there that we had earlier on, he was smiling in training. They look like quite a side that is got a little bit of synergy, camaraderie we can see over there. And he just looks lighter, but he always has the smile. You know, he's known for that. So I think it's not to say, maybe it's like a dummy thing to kind of intimidate the opposition or whoever, to confuse the enemy. But yeah, I think it's a little bit too soon to say that it's redemption. Let him prove himself. Let's see. Give him some time. Yeah.
He was even having a bit of a giggle at the coin toss at the beginning. I saw. Well, that were the 3 games that we had today. Let's have a look at what that did to the groups. Group A. Obviously there, Morocco at the top with 3 points, Zambia, Mali with 1, Comoros down at the bottom. If we move on to Group B, of course, those results just getting in South Africa and Egypt both at the top with 3 points, and Zimbabwe, Angola at the bottom with none. Obviously, this is a very long tournament, as you've said. Many more games to be played in the group stages. So let's have a look now at the games to come. We have a number of games tomorrow, 4 days, a very busy day. Group C and Group D springing into action there. 4 games in total. Nigeria, Tanzania, Tunisia, Uganda, Senegal, that a lot of people are waiting for against Botswana, DR Congo and Benin. Let's start looking maybe at Senegal and Botswana, Andreas. What are your thoughts on how that game is shaping up?
Senegal are the big favourites. Botswana have done really well to get here. You know, Botswana don't have that great wealth of talent. They got here by getting a draw at Egypt, showing real courage. I think it's going to be very tough for them. I don't really see where the goals are coming from, to be honest, for Botswana. Senegal, on the other hand, you can see goals coming really from all over the pitch. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in Ndiaye tomorrow. I think he's a fantastic player. So I think it'll be very, very tough for Botswana. Even I think a narrow defeat wouldn't be too bad for the Southern African side.
Is there any player that you're looking out for on either side in particular that we should look at?
It's going to be interesting to see Sane, Ndiaye I really like. Senegal just have really so many quality players going through. Nicholas Jackson is one of those players who can be brilliant on his day. It's just about getting that side together and getting them to click. So I would see Senegal winning that quite comfortably.
The other big game we have is Nigeria, Botswana. The Super Eagles will be keen to hit the ground running in this competition. Tanzania have taken part in 4 AFCONs, never made it past the group stage. Tando, what are your thoughts on this?
Very tough opponent to Nigeria if you're trying to make it to the round of 16 for the Tanzanian side. But I think, like we said, the first match is always a little tough one to crack. So, yeah, I think it will be a smooth sailing for Nigeria, but for the Tanzanians, a good one in terms of to get a feel of what to expect in the tournament.
Nigeria, you were saying, is maybe one of your favourites for this competition. What do you put that down to?
I mean, look at their performance in the previous African Cup of Nations. Look at how they've been performing in qualifiers. They also haven't made it through to the World Cup. So I think that's also something that makes them put all their energy into the African Cup of Nations, is that if you don't stand a chance on the global stage, why not do it at continental? They also have continuity. Ademola Lookman, who was actually one of the standout players in the previous AFCON edition. So he's definitely one to be looking out for in offence. Calvin Bessie, he is really good from the back. He's an end-to-end player, so I think that's also going to be a little bit dangerous for Tanzania because you never really see him coming. They do have, like I mentioned last year, they do have a total football kind of style of play. So I think for anyone who's coming up against Nigeria, it's a really tough opposition to have because you don't necessarily know what they're going to be doing. They defend really well, they attack really well, they hold the midfield really well, a lot of creativity as well. And then you also have the confidence of Victor Osimhen, who's been performing, who's been in incredible form for the past 3 years consecutively. And so I think he's at his peak right now. He's obviously going to be the target, kind of similar to Lyle Foster with Bafana Bafana. And so, yes, you need the experience. Yes, you need him for finishing. Yes, you need him for the confidence. But I don't necessarily think that he's the solid player to be looking out for in tomorrow's game. But I'm definitely excited for it. Nwabili was also quite outstanding in the previous one. Just interesting to see if he's going to be in the starting lineup for this one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My prediction, I'd say Nigeria, easily. Yeah.
Easily.
Easily.
Okay, easily-ish. Okay, well, we've touched on those two big games tomorrow, be it Senegal and Nigeria, two big teams. But let's cross back over to Selina Sykes in Rabat. Selina, you'll be going to two other games tomorrow. What do you expect from day 3 of this AFCON?
Well, Emily, let's start off with DR Congo. Benin, that will be the first match in Rabat tomorrow. And, well, DR Congo will be wanting to show some of the bigger teams that they could be dark horses in this competition. They reached the semi-finals at the last AFCON. They were knocked out by the eventual winners, Ivory Coast. And they gave Senegal, who just so happened to be in their group, they gave Senegal a good run for their money in the World Cup qualifiers. They did obviously finish a second behind the Lions of Teranga, but they gave them a good challenge in that group. And more importantly, they then saw off Cameroon and Nigeria in those African playoffs, which means that they still have a chance to get to the World Cup next year in those confederation playoffs that will be going on next year. So some high hopes for this DR Congo side, and they have quite a few Premier League stars in their ranks. 2 players from Sunderland, Arthur Masuaku and Noah Siddiqui for Sunderland. There's also Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who plays his club football for West Ham. Benin will be the underdogs. This will be their 5th AFCON, and they've only made it past out of the group stages on 1 occasion.
Well, that's for that first game that you're going to see.
I've just forgotten Ezen.
You're going to see two.
My apologies. I am going to see 2. I forgot it. There's so much going on already. I'm a bit lost. So there's Tunisia also tomorrow, who'll be playing against Uganda. Tunisia, who'll be wanting to make a big point, of course, because they are a big side when it comes to AFCON. They won back in 2004, but they crashed out of the last edition. They were rock bottom of their group. It's a decent side, though maybe perhaps missing one big star like Salah this evening to get teams across the line in those decisive moments. But obviously Tunisia will be going into the game against Uganda as the big favourites. Well, for Uganda, they will be co-hosting the next AFCON, so they'll be trying to punch above their weight in this edition to show that they can give their home supporters something to cheer about in a few years' time on home soil.
Well, thank you very much, Selina. I hope you enjoy those 2 games. What do we think here in the studio very quickly? DR Congo, Benin, Tunisia, Uganda, what are your predictions?
DR Congo is going to make this one, get the 3 points. I mean, we're looking at a side that made it a little bit difficult for South Africa last year in the third place match for the African Cup of Nations. They also just throughout the tournament made it difficult for Morocco. I think that was when Coach Walid Regragui had like the whole altercation. So they are quite a notable side, 3 points for DRC, and I think Tunisia can take this one.
Andreas?
Tunisia, Uganda is an interesting one. I've seen quite a lot of Uganda. Their strength is their attacking midfield players. They're really good going forward. I saw a game against Mozambique that absolutely murdered them, 4-0. Travis Muchaba is a brilliant player. Alan Okello, they've got. It's a country on the rise. Their football is getting better, Uganda. The thing about Tunisia is they just don't concede goals. In 10 World Cup qualifiers, they didn't concede one goal. And they've got Trabelsi, who's their coach, who's back after more than 10 years, who just knows everything about African football. He went to AFCONs. I think he went to 3. He's gone to a World Cup. They're so hard to break down. They do have a great player, Ismail Garbi, who plays in German football with Augsburg. So it's quite a tricky one. Uganda good going forward. Tunisia just don't concede goals. So make of that what you will. That could go either way. But Tunisia are a very tough nut to crack.
Well, not conceding goals is sure to be quite a difficult thing to beat. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, though. Thank you, Sando and Andreas. We'll be back tomorrow for debrief of the day 3 of the Africa Cup of Nations, and we'll see you then.